Hi everyone, it's Rachel and Anthony.
Hello.
From Don't Crop Me Now. It's actually the 1st of May, but it was chucking it down with rain yesterday. So we're going to do our end of April plot tour. So I'm going to start in our greenhouse, which is on the back of plot 5B. There's a few gaps because we started planting a few things out, but there's still lots going on at this time of year. We are in Manchester, South Manchester, and our last frost dates are around the middle of May. So lots of these things that are in the greenhouse cannot go out for a good couple of weeks yet. So let's have a look at what we've got. We've got a lot of different types of brassicas. So we've got some cauliflowers, and these are the purple cauliflowers, and we also have some calabrese, and they're doing really well. We've actually started off all our seeds this year in our own homemade compost mix that was made from quite a few different ingredients, and I'm really pleased with how they are actually going and growing at this time. That does mean that we've had a few seeds that have formed within the actual cells, but I've not found that too much of a problem, so we will definitely be continuing with making our own seed mixes. It's definitely saved us a lot of money, and it's really good for the environment, means that we can keep peat free as much as we can. We have some parsnips here which we have sowed in loo rolls, toilet rolls. They have not quite germinated yet, but they do take quite a while to germinate. I may sow some of those direct as well, but these are just sort of sitting and waiting. Here's something that didn't have an amazing germination. These are actually multi-sown spring onions. There's only a few. You can see a lot of these are weeds, so I'll probably weed those out, maybe sow a few more spring onions within those cells. If we keep going down on this bookcase structure, we have got more brassicas, and these are all different types of brassicas. So some of these are kales and some of these are cabbages. We have a load of flowers here. They haven't started germinating yet, but they are anemone. I'm not sure if that's right. That's how you say it. And these, I decided, I think they're really, really beautiful flowers. And I thought I'm going to just try and start these off in the greenhouse because I'm planting them a little bit late. I'm not expecting them to flower this year, but I do want to establish a nice little flower bed. But actually looking down on here, some of them have actually started to grow, so that is quite promising. There's a number of different colours that we've got here, so there's quite a lot of the larger pots like these actually contain those on this section. We've got broad beans that are desperately looking like they need to go out, so they need to be one of our next jobs. We've got a better set of spring onions. There was definitely better germination here. And right underneath here, these are multi-sown shallots that are looking really healthy now. So those ones really need to go out quite quickly as well. There's quite a few other little seeds we've got. Most of these are types of squash that haven't quite started to poke through. So it was last weekend I sowed loads of squash and beans. So some of the beans have germinated really quickly. If we have a look at this one, these are the chestnut type of beans, which we save all our own seeds, certainly for beans, and they've come up really quickly. That's within a week. A lot of the trays behind me lower down, you can see that some of the seeds are starting to poke through. These are all different types of beans. More brassicas here. These are the giant cabbage, just starting to form some really good true leaves, and they will grow on. We've got quite a lot there. I definitely don't want more than one giant cabbage, but after our really poor attempt at timing of harvesting last year, I do want to have another go. We'll probably give a lot of these away in our plant sale that we have our allotment, because I certainly do not want 15 giant cabbage. It will take up half my allotment. We've got some onions that have been sown from seed. The majority of onions that were set sown we have already planted out, but these ones are globo onion. I'll let them grow on a little bit more. We do have some very sad looking cucumbers here. I think I brought them out a little bit too early. We did have a bit of a cold spell. These ones actually look like they are alive. They are putting another set of leaves in, so maybe they will pick up. So I'm going to leave them. Where we've got the holes is where they've actually died off. I think it was just too cold. Underneath we've got a number of flowers for baskets, things like fuchsias and a few different other ones. We've got the last of the onions that came from sets. These are sweet peas that are looking really good. These ones can go out. And then here, not looking brilliant, but we have got some coriander, and this is spinach. These need to go out quite quickly. They're in such small cells. They do not like the heat of the greenhouse. So I think I'll try to get them out. Maybe I'll put those on the community plot. So in this main, there's quite a lot going on in this greenhouse because it ended up so full, and because I've sown things in trays between what we use for our plots and what we will use for our community plot. It's all a bit mixed up. So there's actually quite a lot that's in the community greenhouse as well that we will use, some of on our own plot and some of them on the community plot. Just much easier if the same varieties are all in the same tray. So let's have a look at the community greenhouse and you can see what other things we've got started in there as well. We're in the community greenhouse and there's quite a lot going on actually. We've got some multi-sown radish and beetroot. They're looking really healthy. We've got a load more brassicas that have been sown that would need pricking out. These are ones that didn't germinate that well the first time round. We do have parsley, and this is the second time I've tried to sow this parsley seed and it hasn't germinated, so I don't know whether the seed is dead. If this doesn't come up pretty soon, I'm probably going to give in and get some fresh seed. We've got a lot of flowers in here that will go at various places on the plot. These need to go back into our own greenhouse now we've created some space. Most of them are actually for home. On this side, there are some spare onions, which hopefully when we show you these on the plot, we're going to have to plug some gaps because the magpies have got in and got a few of those. Some of these are for our community plot, things that have been donated by other plot holders. So there's some tomatoes, melons and cucumbers. There's lots of really nice lettuce. Again, that was donated by a plot holder. That will go on the community plot. And most of the stuff around there is flowers. We do have a lot of dahlias, as you can see here, that are just starting to sprout. Needs a good weed. These came out of the community plot and they will be going back in there as well. And then behind me, we have a few more beans, and we have some flowers that we've sown from seed, things like sunflowers and cosmos, and they are just starting to pop through. So what I'll do over the next week is sort out the two greenhouses and try to get them all a bit more organised so we can start planting things out both on our plot and on the community plot as well. So let's start looking at the actual plots, and we're here on 5B. There's not an amazing amount planted, but there is a lot of spring growth, a lot more than would have been in our last video. So if we look below, these strawberries are definitely starting to fill out, and they do have a few flowers, so they are starting to look very healthy. The fruit trees again are looking good. You can see on the pear tree where there are lots and lots of little fruitlets that have been set. Anthony put a short on about this tree, our most recent short, where we actually had some canker on this tree. This is a grafted apple tree, but we're hoping, have a look at that short, that we will still get some fruit off this tree and we can manage that in the winter. A lot of our cold frames are really bursting into life. As you can see, there's lots of cuttings in here that are definitely growing. I need to get these out of the cold frame. I just put them in here over winter just so it looks a bit more tidy really. There are lots of lavender in this section, and at the back here, luckily they are actually alive, which is good, where we have potted up quite a few, some dianthus there that are potted up, so they are alive because they are growing, so that's good. We will put them, I guess, somewhere on the plot. If we look behind us on the main plot here, we haven't done much tidying up on here. There's definitely a few little weeds in the bed, but overall it's looking pretty good. Anthony and his friend Mark actually put the manure out when I was away over Easter visiting family, so we have manured over these beds. We do have some of the overwintering kale that's in there. It started to go to seed. We will probably pick that. Actually, the flowers themselves are edible as well, so you can eat those. The only thing we have got planted on this at the moment is some onions. So if you go to the back, you can see underneath this netting there are onions. These were the ones that were grown from sets. They are looking pretty good, to be honest. We've had to put nets over absolutely everything because I've just mentioned that earlier, the magpies. We have been on this ground 20 years and we have never had this many magpies. We have pigeons which tend to try and eat everything, but the thing with the magpies is they're pulling everything out. So it is causing us a lot of problems in the way that we're managing our crops when they go in, when they are very small. So it is an absolute pain, but that's what we've had to do. I will take those nets off once the plants themselves are actually established. If we look at what's left of our manure, we still haven't finished putting it all out yet. So if Anthony can have a look, you can see the manure storage is going down. That one on the right there, there's not that much left. The bay on the left, there is still quite a lot in there. The majority of this will be going on plot 4. We just haven't had time to put it all out yet. So let's go over to plot 4. And this is plot 4, so this is our main plot, the one we always say we've had the longest. And there are a few new really good additions actually on this plot. So if you look behind me here, we have put this new strawberry bed in, which is looking really good and really healthy. Really, really pleased with this. If we look to my right, there's something that is completely different. We have managed to get this asparagus cage up. So I bought this a while ago. We've had a problem over the last couple of years since the asparagus got to the sort of fruiting stage that the local cats are coming in, and as soon as the asparagus comes up, they chew the top of the asparagus. So we've waited a long time to get this crop, so it is quite infuriating when that happens. So we decided to invest in this fruit cage. I have to say it's not the best quality. It's nothing like the good fruit cage that we've got, which was from First Tunnels, which is on the other plot on 2B. But we needed to get one that was a very specific size. So we ended up getting this. It's a little bit wobbly. It's not great. I think it'll be okay because the wind should blow straight through it. We don't tend to get much snow here to weight down the roof in the winter, but I think time will tell with that. I'm not sure whether we might need to reinforce that a little bit. The rhubarb on here is looking brilliant. I'm thinking about picking some of that maybe today, and I'm going to have a go at making some vinegar, some fruit vinegars from that. I really enjoyed making the apple cider vinegar over the last couple of years. So I'm going to try and expand our range of vinegars with different fruits as well for things like salad dressings. You can see signs of things starting to grow sort of everywhere. If you can see here that we have got the dahlias that are starting to poke through here. You can see that some of the climbing plants here are starting to grow. That is a clematis there, and we have some growth here on the autumn raspberries. So we're definitely in a decent amount of spring, but we're still getting pretty cold weather here. Last week we did have going down to 1 or 2 degrees overnight. So that really limits how quickly we can start planting things out on the main part of the plot. If we keep going to the back of plot 4, then we've got some spring cabbage that is just about ready to harvest. So I'm not sure what we're going to do with that, but we definitely need to harvest that. You can see we've got a load more onions in. This is where the magpies had a good go at attacking the ones that they could reach. So I've readjusted the netting, and hopefully, as you can see, even though they've pecked a bit off here, it's still alive, the actual little bulb. So I'm hoping that they will essentially regrow. But it is a faff because I've had to put these structures over it. Another thing we did, we planted today potatoes and peas. It's been very late for us to put potatoes in, but we've been busy with other jobs. So behind here, we've got our 2 beds that will have the potatoes in. It's all from our homemade compost that we use. We've got early potatoes, and this year we decided to only grow 2 varieties of potatoes. So we've gone for Charlottes because they're a really nice early potato, but they do grow really well as to a larger potato, so they can be stored. Probably my most favourite one would be International Kidney, but for the last few years we haven't been able to get hold of those, so we went over to Charlotte. I do think they are quite similar. And the other potato that we are growing is Picasso. This grows into really large potatoes that can be sort of like an all-rounder potato. So we've got the new potatoes, and then we've got the Picasso. The Picasso are actually a second early, so they will mature early enough to hopefully avoid the main point of blight, which we always get. Because if anyone knows anything about Manchester, England, is it definitely rains a lot here, and we always get blight. So that's why we don't tend to grow the main crop varieties of potatoes, and we stick to the ones that are second earlies and store those. We did plant the peas, that's the other thing. So if Anthony turns around, you can see the early peas. These are a dwarf variety of peas. And this is my Fort Knox type construction to try and stop these magpies getting in, because I guarantee they will have ripped all of them out within an hour or so. So that probably won't stay there for the full time, but at the moment, until those plants establish, I do not want to lose them. I think I'm going to have to start doing that on loads of the crops, which is really, really annoying, but it is what it is. And then if we have a look around the rest of plot 4, you can see it's quite tidy, but there's not huge amounts going on. We are still harvesting leeks. There are some brilliant leeks in here, and we had some the other day. We need to still harvest the rest of those before they start going to seed. And because we have used a lot of the compost for some of our potatoes, it's mean that we've at least tidied up a little bit in this area. We need to finish off this structure now. We actually had a really big 1 ton bag of compost that was in this area, but unfortunately it was blocking how we could finish building this structure. So now we've done that, we should be able to finish this. And this is a storage bay for the rabbit hay and manure that we get free, and we can use as part of our composting. So we need to finish the lid and we need to finish the front and completely get this structure all sorted. The flower border is looking really nice. I'm really pleased with this. It's had a brilliant display of summer bulbs. Some of these are now dying back, but had really nice tulips and also daffodils. You can see there's a lot of alliums that are also coming through in this middle section, so hopefully they will give us that end of spring second flush of bulbs really. And then there are a lot of plants within this which will make a great display all summer, so really pleased with that. So that is plot 4. Now let's head over to our last plot, which is plot 2B. We are now on plot 2B, and the first part of this plot is our composting structures. So you can see here we've got some relatively fresh compost here that has just been laid up. These are actually composting cups that came from one of our socials, so I'll put those on as well. This middle section has just been relayed. There's a layer of sort of semi-composted wood chips on the top, and this is one of the sections that we have been taking some of the compost out and using this within the potatoes. As you can see, there is a crazy amount of eggshells in there because we've been collecting food waste from a local cafe. I think I'm going to start collecting as many of the eggshells. I don't think it's a problem to have eggshells in your compost. I think it really will help with things like the drainage. However, there's just so many in there, it's hard to get a fine compost. So I think I'm going to stop collecting, well, collecting as many anyway. And that's our compost. If we then look into the fruit cage here, if Anthony has a look, this is looking really, really good. I'm really happy with the tidying up that we've done on here. So the plum tree looks like it's set a lot of little plums on there, which is great. All the berries are starting to form. You can see here on this red currant there is berries forming. You can see here on this gooseberry there are berries forming, and the blueberries, which are just round the back, have got loads of flowers on, so hopefully they should crop quite well too. I did really prune them back very harshly, so I'm pleased to see that they are definitely all flowering, so we should get a good crop. They're quite established plants, but I had let them go a little bit more unruly, so that is looking really good. We should get hopefully a good crop off that. One thing we do need to do is, if Anthony looks in at that plum tree that's on the side, we did start to fan that plum tree, and then I forgot to prune it at the right time last spring to summer. And as you can see, it's escaping out of the fruit cage. So in about the next few weeks, it starts to come into the time where you can start pruning the plum trees, and that's one thing that we will have to do. We'll have to prune that down, get it back in and fan it back out so it's actually staying within the fruit cage, and do a better job of that. The rest of plot 2B is the fruit plot, and again there has been lots of fruit that has set. You can see here lots of tiny little pears. We've got a late flowering apple tree here, and overall a really beautiful cherry blossom on this tree at the back, which is always really pretty. So this is looking quite nice. There's definitely there's a few weeds around, there's a bit of a tidying up that we need to do, but overall it's looking pretty good. And the last thing let's show you is the polytunnel. So in the polytunnel, there's not a huge amount of things in here at the moment, but there are a couple of quite exciting things. And one of them is this apricot tree. So if you see here, we have got apricots. Really, really pleased about this. I wasn't sure we were going to get any fruit this year, and when it flowered I thought, wow, we've got a good chance of getting some fruit. I did have to self-pollinate using a paintbrush because it was as soon as it flowered it went to a really, really rainy weekend, so there weren't many natural pollinators around, so I didn't know whether it would work, but it has done. We also have some very early potatoes that are on here. We have harvested at least one bucket of these about, was it last weekend? And that's the earliest potatoes we've ever had. So that is really exciting that we managed to do that in the polytunnel.
What variety are those potatoes?
One's Anya, and then they're a mix, just some ones that we had left over really from last year, so I'm not quite sure. We have also just set up here if Anthony comes in. One of the other plot holders gave us some overwintering carrots, and they have just started to resprout, so I've planted them into this bucket, and I'm going to grow these to try and get them to set seed, to collect seed. It's one of the things that I'm quite keen for us to do on the community plot. We can then share all those seeds back out with the plot holders. So I've got a few things on our plot that we've kept, and we're going to use this bucket of carrots to see if that works. I have brought in some strawberries here, so hopefully that will just force them to set fruits a little bit earlier than outside, and they are looking quite nice as well. Other than in here, it's just a few extra plants down here that are actually for our plant sale that another plot holder has donated, and they've just run out of space in their greenhouse, so I said we can put them in here. So overall, we really feel like we're getting into spring now. The plot is starting to burst into life, but it's going to be very busy now between now and probably the next 3 to 4 weeks. That is when we plant up the majority of our plots around our frost dates here in South Manchester. So if you have enjoyed the video today, please like, comment and subscribe. It only takes a minute, but it really helps our channel. Bye everyone.
Bye.